Listen now, we the talk around town. Alex threw the ball to Smokey for a touchdown. It's fourth down and you don't really want no more. We've been winning from the door. You should check the scoreboard. Check the scoreboard.
Welcome back to another episode of the Scoreboard, where the NFL season is progressing quickly, and we have predictions for you today. Before that, a reminder, the weekly MVP poll, which, by the way, is still up in the air, is up on my channel community page. You can go vote for your NFL MVP. The season ended today. Who would win? It's a tough race, and we're going to talk about that and our opinions on it and who'll be voted for this week after our game predictions. First of all, Smokey, how you doing, and how are the standings overall?
Oh, man, I'm good as far as the standings go, but as far as a Falcons fan, I hate life right now. Like that was one of the worst beatdowns I've ever seen in professional football. That was like a college game right there. That was like a Division I team facing off against a Group of 5 team. You know, it just makes no sense. But anyway, actually, last week you did gain a point on me. It wasn't very good, though. It was 7-6 last week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of crazy things happened.
Yeah. We had a lot of favorites go down.
I picked the Patriots, you picked the Browns, and I think you picked the Browns just because you were wanting to prove the OBJ thing, and then he left right after that.
No, I wanted to just pick whatever you did and to differ with you.
Gotcha. And the other one was the Chiefs and the Raiders. Yeah, I actually picked the Raiders. That was stupid. But I saw the Chiefs in a downward spiral. And you also had the Broncos and the Eagles. You had the Eagles. And that was also a beatdown.
Broncos are flying all over the place. So we'll get to that. So going into this week, we have Thursday night, and you get to watch your Falcons again at home against the Patriots.
I'm debating not watching it. This is the Super Bowl matchup. Rematch without Tom Brady, only Tom Brady number 2, so we get to see this all over again. I imagine at some point in time we might be up 28-3 during this game, and then we'll lose it in the end. Although if they play like they did last week, we're just gonna bomb from the beginning and be down 28-3. That actually happened in that game also, and then they ended up putting up damn near 20 more points on us. But yeah, I can't pick the Falcons. I didn't pick the Falcons last week because I thought there was some kind of magic in not picking the Falcons. They win, but at least I get a point out of them losing, and I'm going to do that again here and pick the Patriots. I'm going to be rooting for the Falcons, but I think the Patriots win.
So the Patriots are 6-4 right now, and they are one game away from leading the division against the Bills, who we all had as Super Bowl favorites coming into the season. So just wanted to point that out. Mac Jones is getting better every game, and to me, I've brought this potentially up last week, and now after this week, I'm not even just suggesting it, I'm saying it. Mac Jones is very much in the extended MVP conversation over halfway through the season. And if the Patriots end up winning like 6 more games and he continues playing the way he does, and none other of the favorites really starts distancing themselves, which so far hasn't happened, it's a very close race, Mac Jones is on that list. He has to be on that list. There is a realistic possibility, there is a timeline in which Mac Jones wins MVP this year, and the sooner we accept that, the better. Now, will he? Probably not. He's not favored now. There's some guys ahead of him, but the possibility is there. And I even the fact that is the case, I am very happy about, because no one believed me when I said he was good before the draft. As for the game, though, yeah, you're not going to be up 28-3. You'll be lucky. You'll be lucky to score like 20 points in the overall the entire game. You might be down 28-3. Patriots are looking really good. They're getting better and better. They look like the Patriots of old, because Mac Jones started looking more and more doing exactly what Brady does. He's just not making any mistakes, which is remarkable for a rookie. I mean, rookie Mac Jones is better than rookie Tom Brady. If he goes on the same development arc, man, we're in for another 20 years, maybe, potentially. But they're looking good. Defense holding up. I got the Patriots as well. Falcons, technically still in the wild card race, I guess, for the NFC, but probably one of the weaker teams there.
Think about this. Mac Jones sat behind Tua and Jalen Hurts. He didn't get to play over those two guys, but look what he is right now. Yeah, doesn't make sense, but hey, that's football.
Well, Tua sat behind Jalen Hurts, which also doesn't make sense for a bit.
But he did take the job from him.
Yeah,
but look at him now. I mean, he's by far the best quarterback out of those three in the NFL.
Yeah, that's true, and that's what
landing spot.
Being a landing spot, being pocket passer. He's not the flashy guy. Media don't like him. Fans don't like him. He's never the hype name. On draft day, people just feel like pointing out the limited skill set, and that's all anyone ever talks about. But he's good. Quarterback still passing position. He's good. Mm-hmm. We have the Saints at Eagles.
Yeah, speaking of Jalen Hurts, those guys went on a tear last week. The Eagles were actually really good, and the Saints lost another heartbreaker there to the Titans. The Titans are looking really good. We'll get to them later, but I don't know. I'm torn on this game right here. I'm saying, do the Saints recover, or with Trevor Siemian, or what's going to happen here? Or are the Eagles going to continue to get a little better each week, and Jalen Hurts is going to run for a few touchdowns and actually put one over on them? I'm gonna say this is a toss-up. It doesn't seem like it would be, since it's the Saints and the Eagles, for God's sake. But I think these two teams are pretty close to even at this point in time, considering the quarterback situations for each of them. I'm gonna give the 3 points to the Eagles and take them at home.
Oh, you're taking the home team there. Okay, this is one of the interesting ones I spent some time on looking at before we started the predictions, before I decided, because it's a lot closer than you would think, and the odd makers, the bookmakers, definitely reflect that sentiment. I think if Jameis Winston's in, this is probably more towards the Saints' favor, and then of course you consider both of last week's games, right? The Eagles coming off of a great win, Saints kind of a narrow loss, and that probably also kind of taints the perception a little bit there. I'm gonna stick with the Saints for this one, for one, to be able to disagree with you, but also I think they are generally the more solid team. I still have so many question marks about Jalen Hurts being able to buckle down and be the passer that he needs to be to win in a tough spot. I know he can run all over the place. I know their defense is very good, and they have a low-key very talented receiving core now with adding Devontae Smith, who the Heisman winner, who was arguably the best receiver in the draft aside of Jamar Chase. They're looking really good. I do like what they're doing, but I'm not convinced of Jalen Hurts at all. I've seen him in college. I never liked him as a quarterback, as a passing quarterback. He's just athletic enough to win in college, which doesn't necessarily translate so far. They're doing okay, but I'm gonna go with the Saints. I'm gonna trust them to make it happen. If it's a close one, I'm gonna trust the veteran presence. We have the Dolphins at Jets. This is a tank bowl.
Oh yeah, definitely tank bowl right here. I think what are they tanking for? They both have their quarterbacks. I don't know. Are we going for the top D lineman this year or something? Which is not going to turn around either one of these teams, by the way. But this is weird. We just talked about the 3 Alabama quarterbacks, and 3 Alabama quarterbacks came up back to back to back right here. And oddly enough for me, I am picking 3 Alabama quarterbacks to win these games this week right here. I'm going with the Dolphins on the road, because the Jets, even if they get Baylor quarterback back over there, it's not going to make that much of a difference. We saw Mike White come in and do something for one game, and then he totally crapped the bed after that injury, and I don't think anything's going to turn this team around at this point, and the Dolphins do have a couple wins under the belt, so I'm going to take the Dolphins here.
Oh, there's a lot of people very mad at you for suggesting that Zach Wilson went to Baylor first and foremost.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. BYU.
Yeah, BYU.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure he'll take
teams. Yeah, down there.
I'm sure he would insist on that, taking some pride in that if you brought that up. But
Texas, Utah, wherever.
Same idea, right? Either way, I think those two, however, might start for the Jets. Mike White could go down in history as one of the greatest one-game wonders of all time, because he looked like absolute terrible. This last game, whenever the first time he started, of course, he tore up the league. We don't really know who's going to start for the Jets. It doesn't matter. I'm going to pick the Dolphins either way. I think Dolphins are much better than their record. Now, they're not a playoff team necessarily, but they're definitely better than their record. I like Tua. If he can manage to stay healthy finally, which he came in kind of reminiscent of the way he came in at Alabama and won the national championship, he came in and beat the Ravens after, and then a close one on Thursday night, which no one expected ever. We were talking about that was going to be an easy one. He came in and he made it happen against Lamar Jackson. So definitely going to go with that momentum. Dolphins show they have the quality, so I'll have to pick them for sure. We have the Washington Footballs at the Carolina Panthers.
Another weird quarterback situation here. Cam Newton shows up out of nowhere. He came right off the couch into the game and scores a touchdown on his very first play. And then does it again later on in the game. This is a unique situation, and I think this is akin to a team changing a coach mid-season, and they get that 2-game bump because the Panthers were headed nowhere before Cam Newton showed up. So I think this lit a spark under the team. We know that Robbie Anderson is happy. He was cussing out Sam Darnold in the middle of the game. So now he's celebrating with Cam Newton in the end zone. So he's much happier, if nothing else. Washington just came off of a huge win to the Bucs. Thank you, Washington. I'd really do appreciate that. But this is tough. I'm going to go with the 2-game bump. I'm going to say that Cam Newton is kind of like changing a coach. I'm going to go and give them the 2-game bump and say that the Panthers take it at home.
It's very tempting to pick Washington after they beat the Buccaneers, obviously, which was very, very impressive. I do agree with a lot of what you said. I think just the mere presence, the comeback of Cam Newton, it clearly lit a fire. I mean, they had an equally, if not more impressive win against Arizona, of all teams, the Panthers. So 2 teams that the short-term stocks are trending up very clearly. I will agree with you on this one. I'll take the Panthers as well. I'm more concerned about their sort of intermediate to long-term future because here's one thing I can tell you for certain. When Sam Darnold comes back, he's healthy, and it comes down to decision time, Sam or Cam. The states of Carolina are going to burn if they put Sam Darnold back in there, be it the right decision or not. But if you ask any Panthers fan ever, they would rather just switch teams than drop Cam Newton after he came back. He was their MVP, took him to a Super Bowl. One of the best players the franchise has ever had, Jordan of a young franchise, but also a short career. But he's been great when he has been. Now he's past his prime, we know that, but the invigoration he brings to the team is undeniable, and I think it's going to carry them to another win. Now, what it's not going to do is it's not going to carry them to long-term success. And I'm not a Panthers fan. The world will agree with me on this, but I think for the long-term, Sam Darnold is still a better option to build on than Cam Newton. Now, the question is with Sam Darnold is, can you get his head right? Because I've said, like I've said the past 2 weeks, you have to essentially look at him like a rookie, to the degree that he has been basically messed with and messed up in the head with his time with the Jets. Cam Newton definitely has the veteran presence. He has the sort of the versatility, being able to run, but as a passer, he's past his prime. He was never a fantastic passer. Just the dual threat sort of made him very, very, very hard to stop. I get the hype. I like to see him back. It's good to see Cam Newton play, being back with the Panthers. I think that's probably the team where he should be. But this is not a long-term thing. I can't see it be a long-term thing. I believe this is going to be the team where he's going to retire in a year or two and then just be done with it. This is not a career renaissance. I'm not going to believe it until I see it. So Panthers to win this one, but a lot of question marks in the future. Colts at Bills.
Yeah, looking through it from this point on, I think there's going to be a lot of heavy favorites in these games coming up, with the exception of like 1 or 2. And starting right here, even though the Colts have found ways to win, they are not on the top of their game. And I would say it right now, I thought that Carson Wentz was going to put it all together this season, but I think he's still got a lot to learn about this Frank Reich offense here. And also, I think he's going to be better next season. If they keep Carson Wentz around for another season, I think he's going to actually be a lot better off next season. But right now, it's 5-5, and that's what the Colts are at this point. They are only good enough to be 5-5. The Bills came back off of that devastating loss to the Jaguars, which made no sense at all, and totally demolished the Jets, which they should have. I mean, that's what they're supposed to do. They are that good. I'm going to take the Bills, especially at home right here. This shouldn't be too tough, but I see the Colts putting up a fight here, but I think the Bills are still going to win easily.
I agree with you in a limited fashion. I will take the Bills to win. They're the better team, but I think this is going to be a struggle. The Bills have not been the most consistent performer. We know if they're on top of their game, they're near unstoppable. They're a fantastic team. But we also know the Colts have high potential. We've seen them at certain parts during the season play very, very strong. They played very well against the Titans, against the Niners, and they've earned some wins. And reminder, they started the season off like 1-4, and a lot of those were close. Colts they're an above average team. The Bills are way above average team if they perform. This is going to come down to who can bring their A game, and if one team does, the other doesn't, they're going to win. This is closer than maybe you think it is, in my opinion. But I think Buffalo is going to come through at the end, especially because of Josh Allen is, in my opinion, the kind of the MVP frontrunner again after that week, and other guys didn't look so great. But we're going to get into that after the picks. I will take the Bills as well. We have the Lions at the Browns.
Speaking of the Colts real quick, I was thinking, like, you guys barely beat the Jaguars. But then again, looking back, the Jaguars beat the Bills. So yeah, I see where you're coming from here. 49 Lions and the Browns, sorry. Yeah, the Browns are not good. The Browns are a running game and nothing else at this point. And whoever the running back is puts up work for the Browns. So it's a power run scheme, but there's nothing else. And I guess maybe it's Baker's injury is causing a lot of that, but he can't hit anybody downfield. There is no wide receiver that is productive at all for the Browns this entire season for the most part. Maybe a few games for Landry in the beginning of the season. Odell was an abject failure with the Browns. The Lions are coming off of a tie. I guess that's better than a loss. They finally got something out of it, and it was to the Steelers. So good job, Lions, I guess. But I don't know. Like, this is kind of a toss-up. This is one of those that is not a heavy favorite, in my opinion. I'm sure Vegas has the Browns to win this one easily by maybe 6 points or more, but I don't know. I think this could be close to a tie again, really. But I will take the Browns. I'm going to give it a toss-up and take the Browns at home.
Yeah, I can't pick the Lions until I've seen them win, and they seem allergic to winning. They seem to try anything possible to avoid winning that game, as did Pittsburgh, and that was the only justified correct result for a 10 in the tie. So no 0-17 team coming up this year, unfortunately. Still potential for 0-16-1 team, but that's gonna take some work. As for this one, I'll take the Browns as well. I'll say they've been underwhelming this year, and I'm starting to fear that your prediction of them being the fourth team in their division could be coming true. Because that is kind of what it seems like now. As Steelers are obviously also contending for that bottom spot, it seems like at the moment, but the Browns are not looking great. They got to get that run game going, but they've had some injuries on that offensive line. Of course, Odell is now gone. The passing game just isn't clicking, and Baker is just being, average. Like, he's being the kind of the mediocre quarterback we're thinking about, who is not going to elevate a team. He needs to have a team around him, and he can manage it, and he's going to be fine, but he's not going to elevate it by himself. And I stumbled upon this interesting take from Colin Cowherd earlier today, and he said Baker's now started like 50 games. He's exactly 500 during those 50 games. He started 50 games. We still don't know. We still have questions about it.
Wow.
Justin Herbert started after one game. Like, his first game Justin Herbert started, we knew the answer was yes. If you still have questions after 50 games, then the answer is no. And that's something the Browns are going to have to think about after the season, because it's either time to pay up or let Baker go and look somewhere else. So this is going to be decision time there, and the season is not really shaping up as it was supposed to, but they have to lean on the running game, and this is a game for them to get it right against the winless Lions, and I'll take them to make it happen there. We have the Niners at the Jaguars.
Yeah, I bet you're proud with that result, even though neither one of us saw that coming. The Niners rolled right over the Rams. I don't know if the Rams are getting to the point where they have too many superstars, or what? It's just not clicking. Like, these guys were world beaters for the first 6-7 games of the season, and now they're 7-3. But on to the 49ers. The 49ers are near 500. I mean, one more win and you guys can get to 500, and I think it comes right here because the Jaguars are competing for that number 1 slot also. Even though they have their quarterback, I don't know who they're going for. Maybe it's going to be Jordan Davis when it's all said and done. Whoever wins the lottery gets that guy. I don't think there's any quarterbacks coming up this season's outside of Matt Corral or something that anybody's going to want anyway. So 49ers on the road shouldn't be a problem.
So I have a lot to say about this team, as you may imagine, after that Monday night game. So I will address the team first and say it's games like this that, like, being a fan of this team drive me up the wall, because you're coming into this game off of the worst game you've played in several years against Arizona, getting run over, steamed by Colt McCoy and an injury-ridden Cardinals team, where you look completely without identity, like you're completely given up on the season. Every player looked like that. And I'm about ready to call the season over. And then you play the Rams, division rival, and they're a full All-Pro roster team, by the way, and you blow them out. I'm not just beat them, but beat them up, blow them out on home turf, no less, on Monday night. So it's frustrating to see that, like, this potential is clearly there. Like, this is a top 5 roster if they just live up to that, if they have their identity and they're behind what they're doing and they live up to that potential. This is clearly a playoff roster, but the inconsistency, you just can never trust them one week to another. And I hope that this game finally sort of showed them the way, and they're going to be able to carry that momentum into the rest of the season, because it's a very important stretch coming up. You got Jacksonville, you got Minnesota and Seattle, who are both teams that are going to be contending for that wild card spot against the 49ers, and being able to win those games. There's all winnable games coming up for the next 5 weeks until you play Tennessee, all winnable games, and that's what you're going to have to do. Starting with this one, I got to beat Jacksonville, absolutely. After this performance Monday night, stock is up again. This is a team you never know from week to week, but Jaguars, you have to beat it. You can't just blow out the Rams and then go not beat Jacksonville. It would be preposterous. One thing I will say though, and there's this guy that I talk to sometimes about football, and he has this quote that he likes to bring up, and he says this all the time. He says, Sean McVay knows how to beat the 49ers. He says that a lot. I've heard that several times. Now, I will pose you this question. Do you know the last time that Sean McVay beat the 49ers?
Oh man, let me guess. The second game of 2019.
It was in 2018. 2018. The last 5 games, these teams play each other twice a year, every year. In 2019, when the Rams went to this, in 2018, when the Rams went to the Super Bowl, the Niners ended up with the second overall pick. Is the last time that he beat them. The most recent 5 games, all won by San Francisco. Even last year, when the Niners were terrible, and overall, since Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay assumed their coaching positions, it's been not even close. So this is by far the worst matchup for Sean McVay as a coach. So I don't ever want to hear that from you. I know you're going to say it again next time they play. He's got them figured out. You said it at week 1. They played the Lions. He said, Jared Goff, he was with the Rams. He knows how to beat the Niners, right? Yeah, right.
Because I know it's going to get you going.
That's the one team. That is the one team in the league that he does not know how to beat, and not just does he lose to them.
It's really weird because if you look at the overall record of both coaches, like, it's by far favored in Sean McVay's favor. I think Shanahan has a losing record at this point.
It's close. I think it's around 500. I think it's very apparent when you take the games with and without Jimmy Garoppolo. Though that's the one common denominator that somehow half the 49ers fan base still wants to see benched, even though he's been the best quarterback in the league for the past 3 weeks since he came back from injury, and he's been arguably, aside from Deebo Samuel, the best offensive player for the 49ers all season. He's playing the exact way he did in 2019. This offense played the exact way they did in 2019 on Monday night. I don't know why people want to see Trey Lance so bad. I get he's flashy, right? He's a flashy guy. He's got the potential to do. Yeah, it's fun, but this is not a tank and throwaway season yet. All right, if we were like 2-7, sure, throw them in there. But there's serious playoff chances there. It would be completely boneheaded to just bench Jimmy now and throw Trey Lance in the fire. Let him sit the whole season if possible. That's what I said.
Like, even with that Cardinals drubbing, he's still number 1 over the past 3 weeks.
Yeah, because he was there. He was Niners' best player last week. Everyone was terrible, but Jimmy, I mean, he was their best player.
Yeah, but I'm saying by the way, 2 weeks ago, you guys got blown out.
No, last week we did. Yeah, Arizona.
Yeah.
And he was, and in that loss, he was still the best player for San Francisco. No, of course, it wasn't great as a team, but he was the best player. And over the past 3 weeks, best quarterback in the league. By the way, second best quarterback over the past 3 weeks, Mac Jones. But that's a different topic. We'll talk about that another time. I will take the Niners to win this one. Texans at Titans.
Yeah, this Titans are on a tear right now. The Titans are, even though it's not like they're blowing teams out, they're not winning by 30 points. They're getting it done, though. I think they've got 8 wins in a row at this point. Like, it's pretty amazing to see what they're doing, and without Derrick Henry, because no one thought they could do it without Derrick Henry. And now, I think it's actually better for the team that Julio is out, because it allows Tannehill to focus on his best receiver, which is A.J. Brown, which is one of the best receivers in the entire league. I think this team is actually really good. I mean, I've always thought of the Titans as a boring team, but there's something special about them right now. They're doing it. Every year I expect them, well, yeah, they made it to the playoffs last year. They're not going to be that good this year, right? But they keep doing it. They keep figuring it out, and they keep making it into the postseason somehow. The Texans are horrible. There's nothing to be said about them. The Titans are going to win this one easily.
Here's the thing, like, this is, like, if I've ever seen a trap game, right? This is the trappiest of trap games of all time.
I don't know about that.
I mean, I'm not going to take Houston, but I'm going to suggest that if I took Houston and they won, I would be looking very, very smart, because I brought up the possibility that it's a trap game. That being said, I will take Tennessee.
Okay.
But don't be too surprised if the Texans get a random win that no one expects, and then next week I'm going to be bragging about it, even though I didn't put my money where my mouth was at all. But I brought it up, so it counts. I'll take Titans as well. Yeah, without Derrick Henry, very, very impressive. They should win, no doubt. Packers at Vikings.
Hey, speaking of which, this could be a trap game. Really, if you look at it, everybody should be expecting the Packers to easily win this one. Although they weren't doing so hot against the Seahawks. They won 17-0, but they were not effectively working offensively, and Aaron Jones is hurt now. Although A.J. Dillon, I will say, he played pretty well to come into that game and play the way he did. But the Vikings were actually really good, and I wouldn't say they stomped the Chargers, but they beat them fairly handily. They beat them by 7. So I mean, there's only 1 touchdown, but it's crazy. Like, I don't know. We'll talk about the Chargers later. This one, it's really tough. I gotta go with the Packers just because of the rule that you never bet against Aaron Rodgers. But I feel like this could be like one of those buzzsaw games where the Packers just drop it to them.
Well, I'll say this: they handily beat Seattle, which is not by no means a great team. Russell Wilson played frankly terrible, as did the rest of that offense. So, I'm pretty sure like the Georgia defense could have probably held them to 0 points or pretty close to that. As for for the offense, they did what they had to do. It's not a 500-yard performance, but it's all that they needed, and they won the game. They got it done as they usually do. Aaron Jones is injured. I know he's a good player, but there's only one Aaron that matters for Green Bay. That's just the way that is. That's the truth. And as long as that Aaron, who wears number 12, is on the field, his team's gonna win, and it doesn't matter who's around him. He's shown that every game of his life, basically. Packers win. I can't pick against Aaron Rodgers, because the only way they lose and their offense looks terrible is if he's out. That's just a general rule that's almost always been true. Say for week 1 against the Saints when they were completely confused, discombobulated. It's been true ever since then. It's been true for a decade before then.
Yeah, but he drops 3 to 4 games every season like that.
Well, that's like usually to playing against super teams who score 40 points and then he scores only 38, which is like a kind of already kind of below his general standards. That's usually how he ends up losing a game. The Saints one definitely an outlier. I'm gonna have to, if you're gonna criticize him for losses, then I'm gonna need to see some more mistakes.
Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the NFL. I'm just trying to make an excuse to why the Vikings could possibly win this game.
I mean, I can make a lot of excuses for that if you want to. They're better at running back. They're better at receiver, at offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, defensive back, punter, kicker, head coach, and water ball.
How did I know all that was coming?
Yeah, they're better at every position. But then you have Kirk Cousins, who is a top 12 quarterback, and then Aaron Rodgers, who is a top 1 quarterback, and that's what matters. So I'm going with that. It's possible, but it's a divisional game. He's been owning that division for so long, and gotta pick him, right? Mm-hmm. Ravens at Bears.
Oh man, this is another one. I think the Ravens are probably favored by this one pretty handily. But I have a feeling that the Bears are going to get a win here against the Ravens. I kind of have to pick the Ravens since I picked them to actually win the AFC this year. So it's really tough. But the Bears have gotten better each game, and they're coming off of a bye week now. I think the Bears could actually be really good in this game. And we've seen that the Ravens can not show up for a game here and there and just totally blow it. So this is tough, man. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's worse than the Vikings and the Packers to me. I really have a feeling that the Bears are going to win this. I got to pick the Ravens, but I really do have that feeling. I don't know.
I similar to for me as well, but there's one argument that I kind of convinced myself of the opposite too, which is that they tend to have down games, the Ravens do, but they rarely or ever do they do that in back-to-back weeks. Typically, yeah, they play a bad game, they lose, but then they come back. And Bears coming off a bye, but the Ravens coming also kind of half a bye week when they played on Thursday night last week, so they did have sort of an extra couple of days there to work out what went wrong against Dolphins. And by the way, Lamar Jackson versus Justin Fields is going to be prime television, of course. Only to be outdone by Trevor Lawrence and Jimmy Garoppolo, but you know who doesn't love the pocket passer in 2021, right? Yeah, it could be a great game. This is low key, very high quality game. I think this might be the best game of the early slate. If we're being frank, or it at least has a chance to be. I'll take the Ravens as well, though. They're too well coached to do this on back-to-back games, and we know that the Bears maybe are not particularly well coached and tend to have more of a tendency to slip into losing streaks and not really improving on their mistakes as much. So Baltimore has my trust to win it, but it's going to be a good one. I hope it's going to be a good and a close one, and Justin Fields has a chance to step up here. Bengals at Raiders.
Yeah, speaking of not very well coached, the Raiders are showing their true colors. They had that 2-game bump from losing Gruden, and now they're back to being the Raiders, and I think they're on that downward spiral for the rest of the season, and they might even end up less than 8-1, or however you want to put it. The Bengals, this is a get-right game for the Bengals, though. This is where the Bengals have to show up right here. They're coming off their bye week after 2 horrible games back-to-back. They did not show up before the bye week. So this right here is where you have to get right. Joe Burrow's going to have to put it back together. All those receivers that they got, they have they're almost a super team themselves, really. If you look at how well these young receivers and running backs have come along, they really are almost a super team. Joe Burrow is going to have to be a super quarterback. He's got to put it back together if they're going to make a deep run into the playoffs this year. And it starts with the Raiders right here. You're going to have to really beat the hell out of the Raiders.
I do agree with everything you said, but in terms of picking the game, I think it's closer than you're making it seem, because we know that the Bengals tend to struggle as well. Those are 2 very unpredictable teams. Bengals, I think, are generally in a better spot, and they are more rested. Of course, the Raiders really got blown out by Kansas City in prime time, or kind of prime time there, which was not, not necessarily what they expected from a divisional game. And yeah, they're going to go 8-1. That was pretty much given going into the season, and that's still going to be the case. I don't think this is going to be the tie, but they'll have a tie later down the line. Definitely going to happen. I know it for sure. This is actually one where I am going to pick specifically what you don't. So this is going to make me pick the Raiders. Do I want to pick the Raiders? Not really, but I don't get to choose that when I'm down so many points in the overall standings. So sometimes, every week I kind of write down those 1 or 2 games where I just put like whatever he doesn't pick. And this is the one this week. So there we go. I have the Raiders, but of course I'm supporting the Bengals. I think the Bengals should win. They're a better team, but I have to pick the Raiders to make up the points. Cardinals at Seahawks.
Yeah, I don't know that the Seahawks are going to put it together here. This is still a tough team. Yeah, they got beat up pretty handily by the Panthers, and that was them walking into a buzzsaw right there. That was them thinking they had that game handily won going into the game before it ever started. And they got lackadaisical. They thought, Colt McCoy's got it. Like, look what he did last week. He's got our back. We're going to take this one easily. The Panthers are horrible right now. P.J. Walker, nope. Cam Newton shows up and shows them what's up. And the Cardinals got blown out by 24 points, as a matter of fact. But this is where they should put it back together. As we already talked about earlier, the Seahawks are not great right now. Russell Wilson still hasn't really recovered from the finger injury. He was horrible, couldn't even put up a single solitary point. I'm going to take the Cardinals on the road here. I think they'll get it back together after that loss.
There is not a soul on this earth that's going to pick the Seahawks in this game after how they looked scoring 0 points against Green Bay. That is true. But do you remember whenever I bring up the cyclical nature of the NFC West and how the power dynamics work? Niners beat the Rams beat the Seahawks beat the Cardinals beat the Niners. Now we saw the Niners-Rams holding up their long-standing tradition, and this is I'm going to go like full-on spiritual, religious, occult, whatever. I'm going to fully believe in this. Even though I might have made it up, but it's like all anecdotal. The Seahawks always beat the Cardinals. It's part of the great cycle. I'm gonna make up a point here, and if this comes true, by the way, I'm going to start a cult next week, and I'm going. So Seahawks to win. That's all I have to say. No one in the world will agree with me. No one should agree with me. It's an insane pick because they look like the worst team in the league. And they're gonna play Arizona, but they're gonna win because fate wants it that way. And it's always been that way. I'm going with it. Cowboys at Chiefs.
Yeah, starting to. I mean, I've been asking myself the question. The Cowboys got beat up pretty handily when Dak first returned, and then I think they put it together, or was it just the Falcons? I mean, the Falcons beat the Saints. And then they got blown out so bad. Like, that's one of the worst beatings I've ever... I know I said that already. But it is one of the worst beatings I've ever seen in a professional football game. The Chiefs come off of another blowout, are blowing out the Raiders themselves. So this is really tough. I think the Cowboys are headed deep into the playoffs. I picked them to actually win the AFC. I'm going to say that the Chiefs haven't really figured it out, that it's just a symptom of playing the Raiders. But then again, you could say that for the Cowboys. It's just a symptom of playing the Falcons. I'm going to pick the Cowboys on the road because I think you're going to pick the Chiefs.
This is a mind games going on because I was also kind of thinking, what could he be picking? What do I pick? It's much closer than you would have expected it to be, but that's only because the Chiefs won in such a dominant fashion, and we see that glimpse of the Patrick Mahomes, the offense that we know. We're like, they're back now. But are they really back? They've done it for one game. Can we say that they're back on track if they do it for one game? I'm not sure. As for Dallas, they've been on this track for a long time. I don't like it. I hope the Chiefs win. I really am rooting for the Chiefs. It's tough to pick them though. You take Dallas, right? Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
Yeah. This is actually very, very hard. I'm kind of starting to overthink everything I thought of before making this pick. How many points am I down overall? I'm strategizing.
You are down by 5.
Okay, so I get the Seahawks one for sure. Down by 4. That's guaranteed, basically. The Raiders is a 50-50. I'm gonna take the Chiefs. I need more points.
Yeah.
The season's coming to an end. We're over halfway through the regular season already. There's not that many playoff games either. I'll take the Chiefs. Do it again. Just did it against the Raiders. Be the hero one more time. Do it against another team I don't like. Beat Dallas, and I'll believe. If they beat Dallas, I'll believe in them again. Because I said so for such a long time. Like, oh, they might not make the playoffs. Still looking bad, but they're back in it in that division. Statement win against the Raiders, and now statement win at home against the Cowboys. I'm fully behind it. There we go. At primetime, we have the late game. Steelers at Chargers.
Yeah. Steelers tied to the Lions. Poor Steelers. You guys used to be like the best team in the NFL. You've always been a blue blood team. You know, one of the top echelon guys. You're up there with the Cowboys and the 49ers, and you guys are always just heralded as so great, and you're not great right now. I like the Steelers though. I like their colors, but they're not good right now. And the Chargers are coming off a couple losses themselves, so I don't know. There was one point where you really convinced me that Herbert was going to take the Chargers too deep in the playoffs, if not, farther than that. But I don't know. Like they've been bad a couple weeks in a row. I mean, I guess putting up 20 on the Vikings, maybe there's something to be said for that. But it is the Vikings. I don't know. This is more of a toss-up than I thought it would be, but I'll just go with what should happen here. And what should happen is the Chargers should beat the Steelers at home because Mason Rudolph is starting for the Steelers.
Big get-right game for both of these teams, I think. It's important for both. They really want to keep their contention alive. They both have to win, but I'm going to go Chargers as well. It actually doesn't matter too much to me if it's Mason Rudolph or Big Ben. I think the difference is not as big as anymore as best people might want to believe. They're going to have to find a long-term solution at quarterback. Neither of them is going to be it, most likely. The Chargers have their long-term solution at quarterback, and it's just a matter of unleashing them. And they've kind of been, inexplicably for the past few weeks, have been calling his game as if he was like Baker Mayfield or some like really average sort of very physically limited quarterback. Like the vast majority of passes that or concepts that get called are sort of crossing patterns or stick concepts, the short passing, the intermediate, and the screen game. I think Justin Herbert didn't throw a pass longer than 20 yards airtime against the Vikings, which is completely inexplicable because that's such a big part of the danger that he makes up. So open up the playbook. He's a superstar. Let him fling it. Let him carry the team. Let him develop that sort of Aaron Rodgers kind of play. Because he can do it. We've seen it. He really is that. It's just a matter of, like the Bills learned to do for Josh Allen. Let him uncork it, and this team is going to be a lot better. I hope they find their way to be able to do that. Don't limit your quarterback with your play calling, and the Chargers have the better offense, so they're going to win. And then Monday night we have the Giants at the Bucks.
Yeah. Now, on the surface, you have to say the Buccaneers are going to kill the Giants, right? But the Buccaneers just lost to Washington, a division rival of the Giants. And the Giants are coming off of a win before the bye. They're coming off the bye, but they had a win right before the bye. So that makes it tougher than it really looks like. That Buccaneers defense is not as good as it once was. I don't know, haven't seen Vita Vea's status yet, but that defense is actually falling apart from what it was last season and even earlier this season. The run defense is nowhere near what it was before. So if Saquon Barkley's back, he's going to have a chance to run all over these guys. So it really is tough. It really is tough. It's in Tampa Bay, so I got to go with the Buccaneers. But this is another one where I think that Vegas could be wrong here. I think the Giants could pull this off.
This could be such a statement game if the Giants manage to pull this off, right? Mm-hmm. Of course, the Bucs are overwhelmingly favored by 10.5 points, which, in my opinion, for the reason you mentioned, is too big of a spread. I think they should be favored by 4 or 5 points. coming off of, the past few weeks. Remember, they have not been looking good all around. Offense, defense, not been looking like the machine they have been last week, kind of last year. Kind of there's a lot of parallels there to the Rams, interestingly enough, the two super teams in the NFC. Giants coming off bye, typically good, but can also, especially in younger teams, lead to a little bit of rust, right? If they're not necessarily used to the routine, they're kind of getting thrown out of their rhythm. It can cause them to come out a bit more slowly and have some problems, which you cannot afford to do against a defense that takes the ball away like the Buccaneers do. And I think Saquon Barkley, if he's back, he's going to be he's going to be a great asset, but he's going to be rusty as well. And this entire team is going to be a bit rusty, and they might turn the ball over. We know Daniel Jones, as talented as he is, he has a habit of fumbling, and that's something that's going to matter a lot, is the turnover battle in this game. And because I think that's so important, I think it heavily favors the Bucs. I will take the Bucs to win on the back of that, but you never know. We could see another surprise. I surely wouldn't mind. I mean, it would be fun to see Daniel Jones with a statement win. But I'll take the Bucs as well. I think it's the smarter choice.
Yeah.
Given what we've seen
3-6
so far
versus 6-3. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the games. We have two teams on bye only, the Broncos and the Rams. Both of them are going to be very happy about being on bye week. I mean, very happy. By the way, the Rams, something that's always fascinated me with them. It's not just Sean McVay and the coaching that seems to struggle against the Niners for some reason. Like, we know Aaron Donald. If he retired today, he'd be a Hall of Famer. Just the stats he's had so far, and he's not in the league for that many years. 6-7 years. He could retire today and have the statistics of a Hall of Famer, and he'd end up in Canton. If his entire career just consisted of his games against the Niners, he might not be a starter. I mean, he might be out. He just disappears.
You did
somehow.
some digging on these stats, huh?
I did, but I saw the game live as well, and I'm starting to notice. I mean, he might have more ejections than takeaways in his career against the Niners. Just rough memory, which is weird, because historically the 49ers the past few years have not had the most necessarily superstar guards, if there is such a thing. But
the whole old
they've
line,
been shutting
really.
them down.
I mean, they were not bad during the playoff run, or during the Super Bowl run. But
yeah, they're a good offensive line. Of course, you got Trent Williams, who's probably the best tackle in the league now, and Joe Staley was similar with that as well. But they're not really like the superstar guards. I realize there's really no such a thing as superstar guards in the average NFL fan's opinion. But they're certainly higher quality players, or better paid players, and guys like Tom Compton, Daniel Brunskill are not those guys typically. They're fine, they're good starters, but they shut down Aaron Donald every time. It's weird. One-on-one too. There's some clips out there you can watch from yesterday. I mean, he just couldn't get it done. It's very interesting. But yeah, they'll enjoy their bye week, as will the Broncos, I'm sure. They both really need it. Now, with that being said, we have MVP discussions, and once again, it sounds like a broken record, but every week we have no real idea on who is supposed to be the favorite, or who's even in the running. There could still be 10 plus players that have a realistic shot at winning. And since in the poll, of course, which you can participate in, by the way, on the channel community page, and leave your vote, and let me know why. We can only put 5 options. One of them has to be other, and then I just name 4 players, right? 4 of the guys that are kind of coming into the question. I'm obviously missing a lot of the possible ones. But who do you have this week?
Man, you're gonna hate this. Actually, you know what? It's kind of someone has kind of thrown their name in there, because you think about Lamar, Brady, Stafford, all these guys had horrible weeks last week, and as we know, I think I guess we don't know this for sure, but I think Rodgers has taken his name out of the running in the committee's eyes anyway. So it really comes down to 2 players. It comes to
2 players?
Yes.
What?
dude, I know you're gonna have something to say about this, but it's
even with the ones you named, there's still like 4 or 5 that easily.
Well, I'm saying if it were to end right now, right this second, they're both coming off of bad games, or all three of them are coming off of bad games. So I think their name would probably be lesser to Josh Allen and Dak Prescott at this point.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Who you'd mention?
Yeah. But I mean, I'll stick with Josh Allen right now. But it is crazy to say that Dak Prescott is in the mix at this point.
True. I also stick with Josh Allen. I've already posted my comments on that as well. He's the only one who hasn't really missed a game straight up. No, he's had a bad game against Jacksonville, but Aaron Rodgers played one horrible game and missed one game. Tom Brady's now played 2 horrible games. Matthew Stafford played 2 horrible games. Both of them back-to-back, by the way. They're horrible games. Kyler Murray's missed 2 games and played 1 horrible game.
Yeah. And Dak's only had 1 horrible game so far.
He's also missed 1, though.
Yeah,
and Cooper Rush won in his stead, which isn't necessarily the greatest argument for him. I will go Josh Allen as well. Justin Herbert needs to start winning again to put himself into conversation. He's not necessarily playing bad as an individual. Just he's not going to be an MVP if you win 8 or 9 games. It's just how it works, unfortunately. And man, I'm gonna keep up the name Mac Jones. I mean, I know it sounds so ridiculous, but like, give me like 15 good reasons why he wouldn't be, or give me 2 good reasons.
Well,
right?
because the committee voting for it is probably not gonna pick a rookie for one, unless it's just completely utter dominance. Like if Lamar Jackson had his season in his rookie season, like that's the only way that's gonna happen.
But that's not a good argument. I asked for the committee does random stuff, right? The committee's also not going to vote for Aaron Rodgers, even though if they were being honest, they obviously would. But that's not going to happen. So saying he's a rookie, so he's not going to win, yeah, that's true in practice, but it's not a good way to argue about it. I will say, if the neutral observer told me today Mac Jones is the top 5 MVP candidate today, I could not say that guy is objectively wrong or his opinion doesn't make sense. I could not say that because he's been getting better and he's been probably the most consistent quarterback in the league this year.
Consistent, yeah, but consistently average.
Oh, what do you mean consistently average? Number two in pass rating in the past.
I mean, he hasn't gone out there and just thrown for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns yet.
What was his stat line against the Browns? Like, it's got to be close to that. And then he did against he outdueled Tom Brady head to head. Remember that against the Buccaneers, ended up losing that game, but still did. He outdueled Justin Herbert head to head. Hey, what else do you ask him about? He doesn't need to make Aaron Rodgers kind of stats every week. Not even Aaron Rodgers does that. He's good. He's really, really good, man. Yeah. Mac Jones is for real.
I mean, maybe he is. I ain't gonna say he's not because I don't know. He's not flashy enough to win the MVP.
No, but was Matt Ryan flashy? Was Tom Brady, Peyton Manning? Are they flashy?
Well,
they won MVP.
Yeah, but look how many years it took Tom Brady to win the MVP.
Oh yeah, I mean, of course, it's easier for someone like Lamar to do it, right? Because they just have that extra ground game that they can contribute. They can contribute so much more if you have a mobile quarterback running threat at the same sort of level. Like, of course, they're going to be a lot more impactful than a pure passer. But we've seen those pure passers just be more consistent.
Mac Jones threw for 198 yards and 3 touchdowns.
All right, 3 touchdowns. That's a pretty good stat.
That's here's his yardage for the entire season: 281, 186, 270, 275, 231, 229, 307 against the Jets. Now that's not bad. 217, 139 against Carolina, and 198 against Cleveland.
If you read that out, I couldn't tell you if that was Mac Jones or Tom Brady with the Patriots.
Yeah, probably.
couple touchdowns here and there. They run the football a lot. You know, the Patriots aren't a team that are going to have a quarterback pull out the craziest stats week in and week out.
Not at
so
all.
that's never going to be it. And I know that Tom Brady won disproportionately few MVPs because of that. Part of that, but. I'm saying Mac Jones is in a position to fill that role, like exactly the way Brady did, and the Patriots are not that far off from being the exact same Patriots, and they're a serious playoff threat at this point, and they can totally beat Buffalo head to head, and Mac Jones top 5 MVP voting right now. Not saying he definitely is or isn't, but if someone held that opinion hypothetically, we couldn't say that they were crazy.
Yeah, I mean...
No more mention of Derek Carr also, which is...
Yeah, he's out of the running, but...
so don't want to hear any more of that. Maybe Joe Burrow can come back in. I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah.
But you can throw a lot of names.
And at least it wasn't like early in the season when people were throwing Baker Mayfield out there.
I mean, after like 1 week, you can put like 20 quarterbacks in the conversation.
Yeah.
It's still rare that we are so undecided. So I'm curious to see what people think. Go vote on the channel community page. Leave us your vote, and if your guy isn't listed, that's because I can only list 5 options. So I'm not like hating on anyone by not listing their name. Pick other and comment who it is gonna be. How about the fantasy world? You got any outlook for us?
Yeah, actually, it's really hard to say this, and it kind of is disheartening to think about, but about 2/3 of your fantasy season is over right now, and some people more than that, some people right at 2/3. It all depends on your league and when your playoffs start, but it's coming up really soon. This is also injury season for the fantasy season, and you need to figure out how to correlate that, especially with running backs going into the playoffs. So that's what we're going to be talking about this week.
Yeah, kind of depressingly, you say 2/3 are over for me. Pretty much, the entire season's over. I can't catch a break in this league. I'm what now, like 3-7 or something. I somehow couldn't win games this year, and I'd have to win out pretty much to make the playoffs now.
Really?
Which is, I'm 3-7. So I know I've lost a lot of them by not that many points, but not looking too great, but I'm still gonna be looking at it.
That's why you got to get in more than one league.
That's true. There's a shot. I mean, I'm 10th right now, and the 5th ranked is only 2 wins ahead of me. So there's a lot of people around 5-5. Gonna try my best. But I'm looking at that, and if you're a fantasy player, especially now, we're moving into crunch time for the fantasy season. You want to check out the Hurry Up Offense coming up later on this channel as well. Some fantasy advice from a fantasy pro, but that's just foreshadowing for that one. Let us know your predictions for the all the games we talked about in the comments, and also go vote for the MVP. Who do you got and why? And should Mac Jones be considered in the running? Spoilers, the answer is yes, but you don't have to vote for him. So let us know all that, and we're gonna see you in the next one.
Deuces.
Check the scoreboard. Ha. Check.